please welcome Chief Executive Officer of the Infrastructure Sustainability Council, Ainsley Simpson.
E rangatira, e Berenice, e Saptashi, he mihi nui ki a koe, tēnā koe. Kia koutou katoa, he kaua tinako. Ko toko tēnei, kaupapa hira hira, nua reira, e ngā mana whenua. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Ainsley Simpson, toko ingoa. It is my privilege to lead the Infrastructure Sustainability Council as Chief Executive and welcome you all here today. Thank you for being here. Whether you are in the room or online, welcome. Gathered in this room are our members, some of the largest and some of the smallest, but undoubtedly the most engaged organisations in infrastructure. Infrastructure that is delivered by people, with people, for people. Infrastructure that has its purpose in enabling people to thrive. Kia ora. We are hosting Connect NZ this year at Eden Park, and that is not by accident. Eden Park is well on its way to numerous broader outcomes initiatives and call out that sustainability is their living journey, much like ours, and they are striving to be an international champion in stadium sustainability. But Eden Park, through its history, also represents vision. It represents unity through purpose, and it also represents hope through shared responsibility. In 1902, Harry Ryan, a young passionate cricketer at the time, stood on Kingsland Road and looked out. What he saw was a really rough paddock, strewn with stones and rocky outcrops, cowpats and a low-lying wetland in the middle. But what Harry actually saw was a cricket ground. And from small things, big things grow. With a relatable, humble beginning, Harry did three important things. He gathered his friends and he shared his vision. And together with skin in the game, they leased the land. And together they grew. Secondly, he laid down an unwritten rule. Every member who came to practice on the ground had to take with them at least one stone after each practice. And gradually they cleared the ground and it became playable and they continued to grow. And lastly, in 1913 came partnership. The Auckland Cricket Ground, the Auckland Cricket Club, I beg your pardon, did a deal with rugby union, and they used the park on the off seasons, and they hosted their very first international event in 1921, where I might add that the All Blacks lost to the Springboks. For over a century now, the venue has evolved to host universally uniting activities like sports, like music, like conferences. Welcome to Connect NZ. Over the next few hours, we will be united. We'll share responsibly, we will learn collaboratively, and most importantly, we will connect by and on purpose. Connecting is the action of joining one thing to another. It often means strengthening through actions, conversations, and activities. Brené Brown describes connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. They can give and receive without judgment, and where they derive sustenance and strength from relationships. For the ISC whānau, with purpose of accelerating sustainability through collaboration, it seems like a fitting verb. It's been proven that connection makes us more creative so that we are better at solution seeking rather than problem labelling. It allows us to be more trusting and more cooperative, and trust and cooperation are the very pillars and foundations of effective collaboration. When all these needs are met, we become more receptive to change, which allows us to thrive. And if we are going to continue to thrive and do what the infrastructure sector does well, we need to be connected, and we need to know that every day we are working for something that matters, something that is bigger than each of us individually. And that extends well beyond the team that you are currently a part of. It extends to every individual, every person that you have the good fortune to meet. Connection is what counts in life, and your professional life is personal. So do it with passion, because how you do anything is how you do everything. This year has been a confrontation of crises. There have been extreme rainfall events causing widespread flooding, just days apart, and then that followed with Cyclone Gabriel, and we're told that there's more to come. Flooding and landslips closed railway lines and major rail routes. It inundated buildings, and it left many suburbs without critical, essential services. The transport and telecommunications networks collapsed, and our connectivity with loved ones left us with a wake not only of devastation, but also one with an equal measure of distress. These harsh realities were supported by more documented facts over the last month. The sixth census report by the IPCC confirmed there has been insufficient action to bend the curve and reduce our emissions. Without more radical, urgent change, we should brace for more dire outcomes. And locally, the Climate Change Commission has released its draft advice ahead of the second emissions budget. It's calling out the highest order priorities as opportunities for low emission. That builds a future that is more affordable, more inclusive, and more sustainable. And it calls on government, no matter its composition, to be decisive. Now, when it comes to being decisive, there are 4 catalysts generally for change. When we see enough to be inspired, when we learn enough to want to change, when we receive enough to be able to change, or when we hurt enough that we have to change. And I think that it's really important as change agents for us to recognise how we can influence and what we control when it comes to planning, delivering, and operating resilient, inclusive, low-emission infrastructure. So seeing the change, the uptake of the ICE rating scheme is accelerating, with impact both incremental and exponential. We've seen the capital value soar to $274 billion across 373 projects, and registrations over the past years have quadrupled. In the last financial year, we had 47 projects go through the finish line. They went the distance with their heads held high, and they credibly demonstrated their performance. There was no cutting corners, there was no equivalency, there was no greenwash. As momentum builds, IS is becoming more accessible, scalable, and cost-effective. We need to be dynamic, and with the support from Westpac New Zealand Government Innovation Fund, we are underway with IS Essentials, our modified digital product for infrastructure projects and programs less than $100 million. This has also meant accelerating the digitisation of the materials calculator so that there is a widely accessible digital tool for measuring embodied carbon in infrastructure, and all the while we are building the necessary empirical data sets to measure our emission reduction. The IS planning tool for strategic planning and detailed planning will soon go on display. Many of you that joined us for ISAP Day heard more detail, but that means that we can all start with the end in mind. We can start shaping business cases and reference designs from the outset. There are 20 projects in pilot at the moment, and Waitemata Harbour Connections will be New Zealand's first strategic planning rating through Wakakotahi's leadership. We're also seeing an uptick in ratings focused on asset management, valuing what we already have. And that's not in the least surprising, because Oceania's infrastructure leads ESG performance globally. And there is a seismic shift in the capital markets, wanting to green the brownfields and value what we have rather than looking to just build new. And that brings me to learning, so that you want to change. One might say that one might say that this venue is home to champions and also many regrettable losses. But I don't think that's true. One way to hasten the pace is for us to look at miscalculations, missteps, and games not won, not as failings, but rather as major learning lessons. You make mistakes. Mistakes do not make you. In this way, when you are experiencing failure, you only experience loss when you choose not to learn. So choose to be a champion, don't choose to be a loser. With ESG now a business imperative, it is expected that we adapt and change fast. As a profession of perfectionists, our progress will be sure, but our progress will surely be slow. Insights into sustainability has shown that 90% of organisations have one FTE or more dedicated to sustainability, but they claim that they do not have the capability that they need to address future ESG needs. Overall, this is actually impacting the well-being of our community, with overall well-being declining year on year. So it's clear that we actually need to build and invest in sustainability capability. We needed to do that yesterday, and we didn't. So today is a fine time to start. Sustainability needs to be more of a core capability across our supply chain. In every organisation, from the boardroom to the graduate pool, sustainability needs to build as bench strength and a collective culture, much like safety. A capability framework is on our long-term work plan to support mass learning at pace. And this will include things like tactical rotational opportunities and secondments, building off successes of some initial industry pilot programs. The framework will match skills inter-sector. Now, thinking about tomorrow, at the ISC, we believe that tomorrow's executives are sustainability professionals. They have the inherent social compass and they are masters of influence. They often have accountability for outcomes with no authority to yield. Last year, we launched our RISE mentoring program and it was oversubscribed, and this year is following suit. If you'd like to know more about becoming tomorrow's executive, visit Hayley Greaves at our learning exhibition for details on our next cohort, to express your interest, mentees, but also to step up and give back, mentors. Now, several members have licensed our ICE Foundation's e-learning and incorporated it in as part of their organisational induction programs to build their bench strength. We're also seeing a sizable uptick in our executive workshops each year as senior leaders prepare for AGM season, which again is being fueled by global ESG headwinds and some pretty curly questions. We also need to build our bench strength beyond transport infrastructure. There's a shift occurring towards programs and precincts of more integrated infrastructure, and we're seeing that the energy sector showing keen interest with more energy assets registering for ICE ratings, and importantly, our membership expanding to transmission and distribution network operators. The water sector is advancing with our IS Water Advisory Group, and they're looking intently on how to advance sustainability performance both in Aotearoa and Australia. We're building our sector's bench strength with long-range considerations, working on those trends through our coalitions, and we've got those active in resilience, circular economy, modern slavery, and climate action. Now, our sector, our focus is really on looking at the resilience that infrastructure assets enable. It's also about the resilience that builds organisational strategies and systems and processes. But it's equally important to invest in the resilience of people, and that starts with you. As you become immersed in learning, remember that knowledge has the power to be powerful. Applied knowledge is power. And the difference is in performing action. So to differentiate yourself and make a powerful impact, use knowledge as a force for good. It is better to be well done than well said. We're well beyond that pledging and promising that we're going to make changes. It's time to prove that we're doing it. And this particular whānau don't look for reasons, they actually deliver results. So continue to stay engaged and don't just talk about it, show what you've learned. Your actions will speak more loudly. Now, we don't get to choose our starting point. Individually, our origins are gifted to us, and they will all be different. But where we finish is a choice. And it's also your responsibility. And individually, our destinations will each also be different. But what is common is our purpose. Our waka will go faster together if we're rowing in the same direction. We can each row at our own pace and in time perfects our own style and techniques. Thankfully now, you know that there are many more of us in the waka. And that on this journey, it's important that you regularly take time out to rest and recharge, because you are not rowing alone. The infrastructure sector wants to set the direction towards legacy, and we are looking for answers. Much like the king in the parable of the 3 questions, a collection of stories by Leo Tolstoy, we're asking the questions: when is the best time? Who are the best people? And what is the most important thing to do? As we set our ambition today and commit to the shared responsibility of being a good ancestor, the answers to our question are much like Tolstoy's hermit suggested to the king looking to leave a legacy. The most important time is now. The most important people are those that are with you. And the most important thing to do is to work alongside those people that are with you. And for this particular whānau, it is helping those around you today and for tomorrow. Kia ora.